Welcome, everyone, to the cast. Hi, you'll notice, everyone, take it easy. We have new people here today. Your hosts, Gary and Emily, are too busy to be here. Is that what they said?
And the peanut gallery has taken over.
Yeah, so the B Squad has moved over, and we are here with today's special guest, Chris Martin. Is it Pastor Chris Martin? Is it
however you like, Chris? Pastor Chris.
Pastor Chris.
I say Pastor Chris.
Most of everyone around
Martin,
here says
then
Pastor
you get
Chris.
Confused with Pastor
And of course,
Chris.
we already have another Pastor Chris.
True. Back in the day, we called him PC to differentiate. I remember that. Yeah.
So this Pastor Chris
was
is
Pastor
PC.
Chris and
No.
current pastor.
And then the
Pastor
youth pastor
Chris
was PC. I do remember Pastor Chris being called PC.
because he was here first.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
there you go.
You get that.
History
Okay.
lesson.
All right.
Thank you
so
for being with us.
yeah.
It's good to be.
So we are gonna this is one of our standard, just kind of get to know somebody. A lot of people at this church are already familiar with Pastor Chris Martin. He's been here longer than most of us, in some capacity. So that's we're just gonna talk about that. Tia?
You had some questions. I think you wanted to start off.
So now my
with.
questions. Pastor Chris, where were you born?
Oh, wow. Well, first, let me just say it's an honor to be here. So thanks for
there we go.
having me and wanting to talk with me today. But I was born in Miami, Florida.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Actually born and raised there in Miami. It was a great place to grow up. A very good experience.
Wow.
Living there, and still love it. We went back a year before last. Carol and I, we were down going to Key West, and so we took time because she grew up in Miami also.
Oh, man.
And we went by our childhood homes.
Oh, neat.
And of course, it's changed dramatically
Of course.
from where we lived, but it was still neat to see our childhood homes and our elementary schools and the areas we used to run around and play and do stuff as little kids, and so it was neat to.
Were the actual
visit
physical
those.
homes still there?
Oh
Like
yeah,
the-
oh yeah,
Oh,
and they're
neat.
worth a fortune now. My parents' home,
Yeah.
they paid $16,000 for the home,
Oh, my goodness.
and now it's worth about $500,000.
Yeah.
It's incredible the change.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice. It was nice to be down there. Miami, of course, has changed dramatically since I lived there as a kid. It was still kind of, as a little kid, it was still a big city, Miami City. But now it's just, it's enormous. But
Yeah.
But anyway, neat place. And it was neat to go back, and hopefully we'll do it again sometime soon.
So as a talking about your childhood home, as a child, did you have any dreams of like what you wanted to be when you got to be an adult?
Yeah, I don't think any of those played out too much.
They usually don't, right?
Pastor, one of a missionary.
No, as a kid, I was, I guess, typical boy, real rambunctious, and when you think of Miami, you might think of city, but I was more of that kid who wanted to hunt and fish and do that kind of thing. And there really is a lot of that in Florida. My dad wasn't that way, so I didn't get a lot of experience with it, but we lived real close to a canal. I don't know if you're familiar with South Florida and all the waterways. There's all these canals. So we lived close to one of those, and I'd go down there just by myself fishing all the time. And I had a canoe I could take out and do that kind of stuff. But so as a kid, the things you would do is, of course, like police, army, and that kind of thing. And I did, join the Navy. I did serve in the Navy, and I did go through the police academy too. Thought about a career with the police and went through the academy. But yeah, but yeah, never ended up pursuing that as career.
Sure.
And, but yeah, as a little kid, I guess that was probably the most. I wasn't a very good student, so I never thought of anything like, doctor, lawyer, dentist, anything required a lot of, education was never on my mind. So it was always more that kind of stuff.
I think I was astronaut. I always thought that was cool growing up. As Timmy, what about you?
Oh, what did I want to be?
Sure.
I wanted to be an electrician initially as a kid.
As a little kid?
I liked electronics.
That's horrible.
Tracks,
But
Timmy.
by the time I was a
That is like the
teenager,
worst.
I followed an interesting path. I because I became interested in IT in the 90s when I was a teenager. That's paid dividends for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You made a good choice there.
So did you go straight into the Navy from school, like from high school?
No, I went to college first for a couple of years, and then just life just wasn't going my direction necessarily. I felt I needed to change, and so I joined the Navy, and the Navy was a very good experience for me, and gave my life to the Lord in the Navy, and so it was very good.
Now, we did speak to an individual that you've told some stories to about your Navy days, Mr. Darren Spear, and which some of them. So when you joined the military, you weren't saved. It was something that you did when you were in the military.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about that. How did you come about finding the Lord in that environment?
Well, as I said, life wasn't going real well. So joining the Navy, I think, was a little bit of an act of repentance. I need to get my life together. I need to get on track. And so as I joined the Navy, I would say, I guess the first thing that happened is when you go to swear in, the Gideons come and they give you a Bible. And so it was very impressive. Even to this day, I think they're doing that. And at first it was a little bit, I don't know what the word is, a little bit offensive, a little bit of resistance to that. It's like, who are these people? Are they coming in here, like preaching? I'm supposed to be, joining today.
Yeah.
But, when you go to, basic training, you can't take anything with you.
Right.
But then they're telling you, if you want the Bible, you can take it. And so what they do, you're actually sitting at desks, and they put it on the desk in front of you. And if you want to take it with you, you're allowed to have it, And so I took it. And so during that time, I began reading, and, I don't know if they do it now still, but, every night at lights out, they had a designated person that prayed. So every night I would pray and just, Lord, if you're real, kind of show me. I grew up in church, but never committed to the Lord. I grew up in Lutheran church and just kind of going to church, going through the motions, never connected with it. So I just prayed through that time, and it was kind of after that time, and I had leave and came home and kind of saw some old friends and old things, and then it was very clear to me, no, I don't want to go that way. And so when I came back after that leave, I gave my life to the Lord, just all by myself, not at a church service, not at anybody's prompting, just at my rack, first day back. I said, I don't want to go that way, God. I want to go with you. And
that's cool.
Prayed right there by myself and gave my life to the Lord.
Wow. Yeah. So there wasn't I thought maybe there was like somebody who was like pouring into you or trying to, so it was just the Holy Spirit leading.
Well, I wasn't even going to chapel or church or anything at that time. There was a guy in my life though, that I had met, day one of, being in the Navy, basic training. And he really reminded me of a childhood friend and simpler things in life, and he was a very devoted Christian and had a very simple life, so he hadn't complicated his life with all kinds of other things. Yeah. And so it was real nice to connect with him. And we just had this kind of, joking personality that was just like a friend from growing up in Miami. And so we just hit it off real well. And then, at that time when I was saying, I don't want to go kind of the world's way, God, I want to go your way, he was a good example of that. It was like, I can see in his life a difference. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want in my life. So, there was a person that played a big role. And I'm sure there's other people, my grandparents, were Christian. And I know my grandmother, prayed for me. And I remember I don't know if she told me or someone else told me, but she thought I would be a preacher, when I was just a little guy.
Yeah.
So, so there was other influences in my life that I didn't necessarily see.
Yeah, that consistency.
But at that moment of giving my life to the Lord, it was that guy and the Gideons, I think. Big impact on me.
Yeah. So it was 20? What about age?
I was 20 years old. It was right at the very beginning of January. So I always look at the beginning of January as a great time in my life to reflect. And as a pastor, I've encouraged other people to do this, whether it's January 1st or the time you gave your life to the Lord or your birthday. There should be a time of the year where you take every year and reflect and just say, am I growing with God? Because we should always be growing. We should always want to go deeper. I've said things even to pastors sometimes that shock me when I'll say, like, I want to go to the next level. And they'll go, I don't know what that means. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
You should know what that means, because
you may be going backwards.
we should have this lifelong journey of going deeper with the Lord. And we're going to be talking about that tomorrow in church, of going deeper with the Lord, and that we should want to do that. Whether we got saved yesterday or we've been a Christian for 100 years, we should want to go deeper with God. So at any rate, every year for me, that's January 1st. I don't know that I got saved on the 1st, but it was really early then, because I'd come off of leave after a Christmas leave. And so it was right around January 1st that I got back to my barracks and prayed and gave my life to the Lord. So I like to reflect at that time, take time and just think back and say, have I changed this year? Because spiritually, it's real hard to say. Am I better this week than last week? Am I closer to Jesus this week than last week? I don't know. This might have been a bad week, and I feel a lot further from the Lord.
We do a lot of this. There may be some upwards, but it's,
But at a year's time, it's enough time that you should feel like, I'm growing with God. Yeah. I'm going with the Lord.
Yeah.
And just recommit your life to the Lord. Yeah.
Man, I can relate a lot to that, because I don't have a specific date that I can point to where I said that day right there is when I turned my life around. It took course over a period of time where I'm fairly certain I did it while I was driving a car, where I just threw everything basically behind me and said, I'm going this direction from here on out. And which at that time didn't feel real. I think I did it 2 or 3 days in a row where I was like, oh, I grew up in church and kind of like walked away from it at an early age, but I always kind of thought that when that would happen, it would be a bolt of lightning or a bright light would come down on you and just kind of like, oh, you're not saved. And
a
for
very
me,
specific feeling. Like
yes, and for me, it was like, oh, that didn't happen. I better do it again. And then so I would do it again, and so it's like, I don't have a specific January 3rd at 3 p.m., so I know a lot of people will be in a church or something when that happens. So I can relate to that. I have a time frame that, that happened for me.
Do you stop and reflect?
I probably should, but I mean, like what you said about it being tough at times. A lot of times when I reflect, it's like I'm trying to get back to where I was like a month ago. Like I'll find, when trouble hits,
that's when
it's like
reflect?
It's like, oh my goodness, yeah. It's like you're thinking a certain way. I gotta get back to where I was, and then I get back to where I was, and then I relax, in which I should be pushing forward and trying to grow. Well, there you go. That's what I'll do this next year.
Yeah, I like the January date. One thing I did at our church in Casablanca was I did the same sermon the first Sunday of January every year, the first Sunday of the year. And it was Design Your Destiny. And I gave people eight areas to reflect on, and then to say, how are you going to change this year? So it wasn't just like setting goals, like we talk about, New Year's resolutions. Not that, but to truly reflect and say, where am I at spiritually? Where am I at mentally? Where am I at socially? Where am I at financially? What am I going to change this year to make a difference, to grow in each of these areas of my life?
No, that's good. No, it's a good way of thinking about it. Was there anything in the military that you did? There's people that we know that that served in the military, like Darren Spear, which him, my brother-in-law. He led worship service, like when they're out on those boats floating around in the ocean. And he would have a group of guys that would show up, and that was kind of like something he did. Another individual, Nick Pridemore, when he was in the military, he held, I guess, chapel to some extent. So I mean, there's different people that do that. I didn't know if was that something that you got involved into in the military as well, or
not fully leading. So I was on a ship that was too small to have a chaplain, so only the really big boats have chaplains, or when you're on a base, so the small boats don't. So there is another rate, I forgot what it's called, religious something, who might lead, but our ship didn't even have somebody like that. So then you just have somebody from the crew who's a Christian who kind of decides to do that, and and you do that. So we had a young man. He was ET, electronics technician, and he would lead services every Sunday. And also our XO was a devoted Christian, and he would participate. He would play guitar and sing. So it was kind of neat to have the spectrum, of different ranked people leading. But it was nice. We would get together. There was never very many guys, just be
Yeah.
5, 6 guys maybe. And sometimes I would share something. They'd ask something. I was, I just given my life to the Lord, but I was growing fast because I was very hungry, and I started taking Bible courses while I was in the Navy. And so I was never a designated leader, but I would share some, and I would witness a lot because I had just given my life to the Lord. And one of the things that was the most shocking to me was the kids who'd grown up Christian, and now they'd come to the Navy, and it wasn't a pretty picture. I won't go into details, but those are often guys I would try and witness to in a sense, and being like, "Hey, you're choosing the wrong direction here." But that was about it for the Navy as far as leading. And
so where does Carol fit in all of this?
So we went to school together. We were like real good friends in high school, and so when I was in the Navy, she was in university, and that's when we started dating. And so
when you were in the Navy?
Yeah, when I was in the Navy. So I just reached out to her because she was a good friend, and then just reached out to her when I was home, and from there we really started dating by just like writing letters. So we, because I was gone.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a traditional kind of courtship. I mean, we saw each other a little bit, when I was home or something, but not very much. I really can't. I'm not a good backwards thinker person because I'm always thinking forward. So it's kind of hard to think back and say how much did I see her in that dating time. Yeah. But when I could, I would see her, when I could take time off. So I was stationed out of Mayport, and she was at UGA. And so I had a motorcycle, so I would ride up there, maybe see her. But it might just be a day or something, because I didn't have big breaks of time. When you get off a ship, you might just have a couple days, a weekend you're off or something. So so I saw her some during that time. You'd have to ask her. Go get her.
I know, Carol. I'm really upset that you are not joining us. There are so many questions I have for you.
And see if she has a recollection of that, of how much we physically saw each other. But it wasn't a lot. So we dated by writing letters. And then a lot of the time I was out to sea. So we dated by writing letters. We dated by cassette tapes, if anybody knows what that is.
Oh, wow.
So we would record and talk on a cassette tape and then mail the cassette tape to each other so we could hear voices. Wow. When I was overseas, it wasn't like today. You couldn't grab your cell phone and call or WhatsApp or send a text. We did have a way to call from the ship, but it was with ham radio. So when you'd call on ham radio, you'd have to say, "Hey, Carol, I love you. Over."
Did she have like a ham radio?
No, so then there'd be a person in the U.S. who would answer it, and they would call her, and they would hold it up to the mic, and then you say "over," and they'd flip it, and then she'd talk for a while and say "over," and he'd flip it.
Oh, wow.
That's why they say that word.
It's called third-party operating. I'm a ham radio operator.
I was going to say, Timmy knows all about this.
Yeah, that's definitely.
So how often would you do that? That was just been when you were out, like for long periods of time.
We couldn't do that daily, so maybe you could do that once every couple of weeks. And then when we pull into a port, you could go into call centers, which I don't think they exist anymore today. So again, you couldn't go to a payphone, if anybody knows what that is, and put quarters in because it would cost you too much. So you would go to a call center, and you would hand them the phone number. I want to call this number in the U.S. And then they'd say it's like $5 a minute or something. And so you give them like $25, and they'd go into booth number 3. You walk over, there'd be like 10 or 12 booths. You go over to number 3, and you go in, and they'd say, "Okay, pick up the phone." And you'd pick up, and then you could just talk. It was telephone. You just talk back and forth. But 5 minutes goes by real fast, and they'd come on and go, "You have 30 seconds. Okay, baby, I gotta go. I love you. And, I'm going to be back home in 2 months." And
oh, my goodness. I don't think I've ever heard of that before. It's called a call center?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now call centers have a different meaning, right? It's the people who answer your problems, tech problems, or insurance problems.
Yeah. So then were you in the Navy when you got married? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So I was actually in Cuba, and I had scheduled time off. I'd scheduled 7 days to be off, but because I was in Cuba, they wouldn't let me go. So I kept pressing, to the commanding officer, "Hey, I'm not just going on vacation to the beach here. I'm getting married."
Oh, so you had a date set, and they weren't letting you go.
So 3 days before the wedding, he said, "Okay, you can go." So I caught a flight out of Cuba, And
was Carol getting worried?
She put everything together. So I had no part. Whoops. I had no part of the preparation for the planning. She did everything. Yeah, so I arrived and went to the altar.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Your job was to be there on time.
Yeah. And you almost didn't
so we even had, so not only did I had the 7 days before, but we had honeymoon planned. We were going to Mexico. And so I had all this stuff already set up, paid for and everything. But no, when they said 3 days, it was go get married and be back within 3 days.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Oh,
So we had to get married, pack up everything we had in a Volkswagen Rabbit.
Oh, my goodness.
And head back to Florida.
Isn't that like the
so you didn't have a lot.
teeny, tiny car?
That's
everything we owned fit in a Rabbit.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. And so then where were you at, like, stationed at that point?
So the ship was out of Mayport Naval Station.
So that's Florida,
okay.
So
So that's where we had to go back to, and I ended up not going back to my ship. So when I got there and reported in, they said, no, you don't have to report to your ship. They didn't fly me back. They said it's already moved, so just wait here for it. So I just had to go in the base every day and check in and wait for the ship to get back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how long did you guys live there?
So then from there, from that point, getting married and getting back to Florida, for the next 2 years, I only saw her for 90 days. I was only back for 3 months out of the next 2 years.
Wow.
The rest of the time I was gone.
Yeah.
I was in the Persian Gulf most of the time, but also doing drug ops in the Caribbean.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Didn't know this about him.
Yeah.
Learning all lot of new things. Yeah. Okay. So then how did you end up here at Assembly?
Oh, well, let me just share a couple other things. So after that duty too, I had quite a good time in a short period in the Navy because I served in operations, did 2 Persian Gulf tours, but then also joined a Special Forces unit, Mobile Inshore Undersea Warfare, which was kind of neat because you change everything into more like Army uniform. So you're not in the Navy blues, you're in like greens. Huh. And so we were the ones who'd go in, and if we were invading a country, you have to take the mines out of the harbor because it would be mined so that you couldn't just bring ships in because you'd blow up. And so we would go in before that and clear it so we could take over.
That sounds dangerous.
More fully. So that was neat. And then from that mine warfare work, I went on to an actual being stationed on a mine warfare ship, which I was on one of the very last wooden ships that the Navy had.
A wooden ship?
Well, if you're getting mines that are magnetic, you can't have any steel.
Oh, my goodness.
So they make the ships of wood. They today make them out of fiberglass. They still make them, but they're fiberglass.
Okay.
Huh.
So I said I was still in the Navy when the ships were wooden and the men were steel.
So how do you, because mines are below the surface, right?
Yes.
So how do you?
They float at different depths, so
you don't just see them. I mean, how do you still find them? Does sonar find those things?
Yeah, so I was in operations, so I was the one who would find them. So I'd send, helicopters out to drop sonar buoys, and then they would send signals, which would come back to my little trailer. I had basically a container. You know what a container is?
Sure,
shipping container with a radar on it and some other receivers and my equipment in there. And that's what I would do then is do that. And you'd get the signal. And then so you'd say, I suspect there's one here. So then you would send divers out. And then there'd be UDT guys who could detonate them or
so they blew them up?
Oh, my goodness.
I never did it. So in theory.
Okay.
Most of what you do in the Navy or any military is you just train unless you actually, engage in some war activity, you don't really do it. So so I just trained a lot, and I never engaged in doing it. So.
Okay.
Man.
But at any rate, it was a neat experience.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to do it.
No.
As a little child, I wouldn't be thinking that.
So then out of the Navy, how long were you in the Navy then?
So just 4 years active, and then did 2 years active reserve. So active reserve is when you actually go in and and serve. So you go in like once a month, and then 2 weeks in the summer or whatever.
Okay.
So so 6 years total in that. Yeah.
And then what did you do after that?
Yeah, so went into trucking, and then also pastoring, went to Bible school, and went into trucking, not driving, but doing just management work. So dispatching, logistics manager, terminal manager, that kind of thing. And that's how I ended up here.
But
I think that was your question.
That's how I know you,
Yeah.
is that you were at this church, but you weren't a full-time pastor at this
Yeah.
church. Even though you were here all the time, I remember I started coming here in 99, and I remember you being here then, right? Yeah. Singles or something like that.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
you're over.
One
But
life, yeah.
but yeah, you were a man of the people. I mean, you were out. You had a regular job, I guess.
Yeah.
What I'm saying. Plus, then come here like the rest of us, almost like a volunteer, but not really a volunteer. I mean, you were because you were here a lot.
When did you come here? Yeah, what year did you
95
start?
came here.
95. All
Okay.
right. Were you here?
Yeah, because I was here 94, and then I remember him, coming, on, just being, and then when did you get hired on as staff here?
Almost immediately. I think Pastor Dodd got me involved in stuff. That was kind of a funny season, because when I came, I said, I'm ordained in the assemblies, but I'm here because I took a job here. And, but if I can help anywhere, whatever you need, And he was like, yeah, we'll just hang out for 6 months. He didn't know who I was or what. He was like, keeping me at arm's length. But it wasn't very long. And I think the youth pastor had resigned, and he didn't have anyone to turn to. He came, hey, you want to do youth? I'm like, sure, I'll do youth. Actually, I think he came before that and had asked me to lead worship or something. I said, well, anything else. Ask me anything else.
Yeah, because I think that you kind of led our youth group, for a little while, but it wasn't very
until
long,
we got Pastor Al. So it was a short season. I don't know what it was, maybe a couple months, 2-3 months, and then we hired Pastor Al. Again, thinking back, it's too hard for me to time frame that, but for a little while, I did the youth and really enjoyed it. It was such a great season of youth in this church, and I don't know where they are today, but I remember then it was such a great youth group, because I think too, as a minister, that is such a huge challenge, right? Youth, it's like they're not going to pay attention. They're trying to get their attention, trying to bring a message that's relevant to them. I think youth ministry is just incredibly hard. And so that wasn't even my thing, right? I was a pastor, and so it wasn't my, I wasn't reading books about youth ministry or going to seminars or anything. Yeah. So just to go back there and just preach to them, and they're very receptive, was just very, very nice to see the kids. And the kids then would come to the altar every Sunday, praying for each other, praying for anyone. I remember very early on, I'd only been in the church maybe a few weeks, and just week after week seeing the youth go down there, and there was kind of call for prayer for something. It was just a general something, renewing your life, your depth with the Holy Spirit or something. And I was just like, I'm going over to the youth side, because I was sitting on the other side. I'm going over to the youth side and let those kids pray for me, because those kids are on fire for the Lord.
We had a really good group. Yeah, we were in Aaron and I, and Darren, and there were quite a few of us. I mean, that are wholeheartedly serving the Lord. Nick and Heidi, and that was that group, and it was a good group. It was a good time. We had a good time. We loved Jesus, and we enjoyed you. We really enjoyed having you for that time.
Yeah, that was good. So, and then that's when Pastor Al came, and then that's when I kind of shortly after that said, well, there's this gap here with these college kids. Let's see if we can do something for singles and start that up.
Which that still exists to this day.
What does?
That gap where, I mean, not just at this church, but it just seems like,
in the church in general.
Yeah, they turn 18 and it's like, okay, you're no longer youth. Gap, and then, but you're also still in school, and, I don't know. They're just always, it's weird for kids everywhere.
And churches also are very family focused, so singles in general, even if they're in their 40s or whatever, are oftentimes feel out of place.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't just like their college kids. It was anybody who was 18 and single. And you did that the rest of the time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then what called you? Well, I know God called you to Morocco, but like, what in the world? Like, how did that even come about? Because you were here for what, not 7 years? How many years were you
here?
here?
At least, because that was 1995 until sometime 2002. So somewhere, in that
Around
areas.
that, around that.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, well, it goes back to so many things. So it goes back even to the Navy. So one of my first Navy assignments was in Bahrain. You heard of Bahrain? Mm-hmm. Do you know where Bahrain is?
I have no clue where Bahrain. I'm horrible with geography. Horrible.
I remember when I went in, they said, go pick up your orders. And I went to get orders, and it said, you're going to Bahrain tomorrow. And I said, Bahrain? I said, sounds a lot like Iran. And they said, it's pretty close. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
So that was a whole adventure. So what had happened was when I was in operations school, all the Navy doesn't operate this way, but at that time, that school operated this way, is when your class graduated, they gave orders to that class. And then they just ranked the students first to last, and the first student picked, and the second student picked. And so I made sure I was first in the class.
Oh, okay.
So I was first in my class. And so when I went to the detailer and he had the list, I'm like, I don't need to read the list. I said, just tell me which is the newest ship out of Florida. And he said, the USS Boone. I said, I'll take that one. So,
Why?
In the time I was in, ships were changing a lot, and we still had a lot of old ships that were boiler ships. And so boiler ship, it doesn't produce as much water because the ship uses the water for the propulsion, and it's like you might not get a shower. Things like that. The newer ships. So I went on a newer ship, which was what do they call it? Same as an airplane, turbine engine.
Oh,
gas turbine.
Okay.
And so those, they have their own, desalinization plants, produce tons of water, so you can take plenty of nice hot showers.
So that was your top priority, was getting a
nice hot shower. Also, the newer ships are just better, sleeping conditions and air conditioners, and just all the it's just nicer.
That's actually smart. Yeah.
So I didn't want an old ship. So it was a neat experience. And so, at any rate, so once I was assigned to my ship. Then they didn't know where my ship was, and they put me with admiral's staff out of Oceania. And so I was doing that for a couple of weeks, just doing in kind of grunt work. And then that's when they said, hey, go down and pick up orders. You're leaving tomorrow. That's the way the Navy does. It's not like you get 30 days notice. You're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So I go down, and you're going to Bahrain. So then I think I showed up. I can't remember. I think I showed up the next day ready to go and had my uniform on, and they're like, oh, you can't wear a uniform where you're going. I'm like, what?
So what do I wear?
So they're taking me to a commercial airport in Bahrain. So, no, I had to go put on civilian clothes. I had to go change, which they didn't have to because I ended up going to Spain for a day. So they took me to Rota, Spain, then got on a different plane and went to Bahrain. But you land in a commercial airport, so then you're going through the city, and I guess they just didn't want to carry people wearing military uniforms. So, so it was neat. So I picked up my ship. Well, then stayed there. Again, they didn't know where my ship was, so they put me there. So again, I was on temporary duty there for a while and served there for, I don't know, maybe a couple of months till my ship showed up. And my ship was supposed to show up there, but there had been a problem with... I forget what they call them, flagship. There'd been a problem with one of the flagship, which is where the commander, the admiral who's commanding the area, and so his ship was broken, so he took our ship.
Nice.
So my ship didn't show up. So
then you were stuck in Spain?
I was in Bahrain.
You were stuck in Bahrain for 2 months.
I think it was about 2 months I was there.
So is it close to Morocco? Where's Bahrain?
So Bahrain is an island off the coast of Saudi Arabia.
Oh, okay.
And they are mostly Shiite Muslims. Yeah, so getting all around to that story, went back to the Navy, right, to this. But it was an all-Muslim country. So I had just given my life to Jesus.
Okay.
So sorry to make that story so long, but that's why you say this podcast takes a long time.
An hour? It goes by like that.
So that's why I went back to the whole Navy thing. I almost forgot what we were talking about. But so I think that's where even the Lord was dropping it in my heart, because here I am, this brand new Christian. I'm seeing these Muslims who, so this is my frame of reference of growing up in the Lutheran Church. And I don't think that's any different than growing up in the Assembly of God Church as far as this reference. And then you go to a place like Bahrain, and if you're in a taxi and it's the time of prayer, he stops and gets out and prays while you sit in the back of his taxi and wait. And he goes. When you're in the marketplace, the call of prayer goes off and everybody stops and prays. Now, I can't say Morocco's like that. Islam's different in every country. But this was Islam I was exposed to at that point. And it seemed to be this very high devotion. The women all have a certain dress, right? Men not as much, but the women, every religion that's not right, you can know because it oppresses the women. I don't care if it's a Christian religion. If it's oppressing women, you'd be like, yeah, something's wrong with that particular branch. So I'm not saying it was right, but I'm saying you see this devotion in their culture of the way the women dress. It's like they, I don't know what you want to say. They care. They're trying to obey the rules. They're trying to pray 5 times a day. They're trying to keep things orderly with their religion. So that was a big challenge to me. How are these people? You ask a Christian, oh, that's a false God. So how are these people with a false God more devoted than the people with the true God?
Right, yeah.
So that was a big thing. So I started researching Islam. Not that I wanted to be one, but I wanted to understand it better.
Sure, yeah.
So I started then looking into Islam. We didn't have the internet then, so it wasn't as easy, but I'd get some books and start reading and looking into it, asking questions. So I believe it was all the way back then the Lord was putting that in my heart. Also, that time spent there to break the fear of that in people's lives, because I think that's a big problem in America today, is that we're scared of Muslims. That even here in Bedford, if you see a lady who's all covered and looks Muslim, you probably avoid her instead of going, oh, hey, you're in Bedford. How did you get to my town? Where are you from? And make friends with her and realize she's just a woman. She's nothing scary.
Yeah, the unknown is scary.
But we are kind of scared of that. And so I think the Lord broke that even at that early time in my Christian walk, that there wouldn't be a fear of Muslims or fear of anyone for that matter. And so really enjoyed my time there. One of the neat things was I was kind of signed there alone. So the people who I was working with were the Seabees. The Seabees are the ones who build stuff. They build runways, build buildings, whatever. So I would go in and report with them and do a few jobs, but that wasn't my assignment or my skill, my rate. So most of the time I would just check in, do a few little things, and they'd let me take off. So every day I could go into town, into Manama, Bahrain, and do whatever I wanted to do.
Learn, the culture.
And so nobody stayed on base there. It was a British base. We don't even have a U.S. base there. We were using a British base, and they had this huge barracks. I was the only guy in it.
Wow.
So like when I go take a shower, it's bigger than this room, like 10 shower heads. I could just go turn them all on, run around.
Run around.
There are no other guys there. There's nobody there.
I totally do.
So it's a little bit spooky. First night I heard machine gun fire, and it's like, oh my gosh, where am I?
Oh, yeah.
Bahrain's not really a dangerous place, so I don't know who was shooting machine gun that night. But first impressions is like, where am I? But I'm in this huge building all by myself. But every day I could go do whatever I wanted to do. The Navy gave me tons of money because they knew I had to go out and eat and do stuff. So they have this extra per diem kind of thing they give you. So every day I'm going into town and checking out the restaurants. And
yeah.
And so it's kind of neat, figuring
God's
life
way
out.
of kind of like, okay, let's learn this culture, put it into your heart, and then...
So then I told you I started taking Bible courses while I was on the ship from Southeastern, the AG school in Lakeland. So did that while I was still in the Navy. But then when I got out, I went to a little school in Jacksonville, Florida called Christ to the World. And they had started in Costa Rica, Cristo El Mundo. And then they'd opened a little branch in Jacksonville. And it was all missionaries. So it was missionaries from Costa Rica who said, well, we need to open a school like this in the U.S. to prepare people to be missionaries. So that's where I went to school. It was a very simple school, but it was very good in that they're very, very passionate for the Lord and very, very passionate for missions. Yeah. And so that just began to deepen in me. And then as I studied missions more and realized the disparity that we have and that we still have today between the reach and the unreached is enormous. And so from that point, I felt like the Lord called me to be a missionary, even all the way back there in Bahrain when I'd just given my life to the Lord. Because I remember when I was proposing to Carol, I was very clear with her saying, well, number one is the Navy comes first, because I've already made a commitment to them. So if they say go and you stay and you say stay, I'm going.
Yeah.
And then I believe God's got a call in my life to serve as a missionary one day. And she said, yeah, those are okay.
She was okay with that.
Yeah.
So when you were here in Indiana for those 7 years, I mean, your goal was to get in the mission field.
No, I can't say that at that point. So as I went to that Bible school, as Carol and I just processed through life, had children, I think one of the hardest things for people to the missionary call is just life. You just get busy with life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And things can just drag you down and hold you down and keep you. The other is the timing of the Lord, not just going off half-cocked, but being prepared, the right time in your life. And I think God prepares us different ways. Preparation isn't just Bible school. And that's probably a big mistake we make too. Oh, you went to Bible school, so we send you. In fact, today, the Assemblies of God, they're sending lots of people who have just done a secular degree in a secular school. And they've gone to Chi Alpha. And so I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's not necessary preparation. So I feel like when I came here, even to Bedford, in my management roles with trucking, that all of that was preparation to handle life as a mature adult, and how to handle, serving on the field and help towards, a successful season that we did have.
Yeah.
So I can't say, no, I came here with the intent of going. I came here with the intent of being here. So in that time of when I felt called, and then the process of life, getting married, having children, having jobs, paying bills, dealing with the financial obligations and the other obligations of life, I had just, and I had several opportunities. So our Bible school, excuse me, our Bible school that I told you about, we were the first ones to open a Bible school in Russia when Russia opened up. So Russia had been a very resistant country to the gospel and to foreign missionaries. Yeah. And so that came to an end, right? And when that came to an end and they kind of opened the door, evangelists were going in and they were having huge revivals. But then what do you do with all these people that maybe have a little exposure to like Russian Orthodox or something like that, but very little Christian exposure? Some of them, nothing. They were just communists and atheists, and they're coming to the Lord. So there was a little town in the north called Murmansk, and our school had gone up there and led a revival, and we had 5,000 people and started a church and no pastor.
Oh, wow.
So they asked me, would you go pastor this church?
In Russia?
Yeah. So I was very excited about that. I'm like, Carol, let's go to Murmansk and pastor this church. She's like, they ain't going to Murmansk. It's all the way like north. It's like Siberia.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, it's a pretty severe place.
Yeah.
So no.
So Carol was not for that.
No. We should have had her here today.
I know.
Tell you some funny stories.
I wanted her here today. Carol, I'm upset with you if you hear this.
So then I visited a ship, Mercy Ships. And I thought that was really cool too. You know about Mercy Ships?
No.
So Mercy Ships, I'm trying to think who they're under. They're under a broader ministry. I think they still use the same name today. You can look them up. But they bought like old ships and then would, refurb them and then use them to go to countries and hold evangelistic type of crusades. So they might have a medical ship and they'd go in and they'd treat acute medical problems and do minor surgeries and stuff like that. And then from that, they would share. So when they'd go out in the community, do medical stuff, they'd say, hey, tonight there's going to be a preaching or a teaching or something. Or a movie, like the Jesus film. Yeah. So they would do things like that to tell the community to come out and give them a chance to share the gospel with them. So I really love that. My Navy background, and of course they take couples. These ships are outfitted, so it's not like military that they're outfitted so they can handle couples. But Carol's like, no, not doing that either.
Oh, Carol. She's not really Pinterest.
So was she on board with the whole Morocco thing? I mean,
yeah.
So she's good with that.
So we just, I just prayed and said, I'll tell you a story that really changed me about about like this, about dealing with her and about waiting on the Lord and being patient, was a missionary came to a church to share. I'm trying to think if it was the church I was pastoring. I can't recall. I just remember the story. The missionary came. I don't think I was the pastor at that point because the pastor introduced him. And actually, he brought his wife up first. And she just told a horrible story. You could tell there was just pain in her face, no smile. Everything she said was just bad, bad, bad. Oh, we got the missionary house. The next day, people broke in. All my stuff was stolen. I don't know. It was just like story like that, one after another after another. Not very long. She was only up there maybe 4 or 5 minutes before her husband came up and was like, okay, you sit down. Oh. And then talked about how great it was, and he's telling people about Jesus. Yeah. And I just sat there and said, God, I never want to be that guy. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be that guy. Yeah. I don't want to run over my wife and my kids, you know? Yeah. Just because I feel called.
Yeah.
And so I just said, well, God, you know my wife. She's your daughter. And if you called me and you want me to go somewhere, I'm game, but you got to talk to your daughter.
Yeah.
So I just waited on the Lord. So I was pursuing coming here. In fact, that was a big reason, like coming here was I was doing ministry and working in Florida. And it was just like, this is kind of killing me. And so I came here just to pursue career a little bit more. It's like if God's not providing me, for me through the ministry, then I need to seek, provision for my family through my career. And so I was in trucking there, so I took a trucking job up here, management job, which went very well. God really, really blessed me a lot. I was managing the trucks down at Lehigh, and then that grew to managing over 5 states. So I ended up being a guy who took care of actually another company within my company, and overall the operations for cement in Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I was doing as I was the associate pastor here, or whatever my title was. Single pastor. I don't know what my title was.
Yeah. I was thinking associate. You were associate pastor, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So
thank you for joining us on this first episode of Talking with Pastor Chris Martin. We are going to stop. This is episode 1, so we're going to stop right here, and we're going to have a part 2 here in a little bit. We hope that you join us for that. Thank you.
This has been The Cast, a podcast of Bedford First Assembly of God in Bedford, Indiana, with Gary West and the reporter Tia Hiles, Shanon Hiles, and Tim Ray. Listen for new episodes of The Cast every Monday.